Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm a little hesitant to show you the rest of me because I asked Emerald over in makeup to give me a little dash of color today, and I'm not quite sure how it's going to look on TV. So here we go. Oh boy. I just heard a scream. Emerald? Well, is it? I guess we're going to call this Emerald Green. Yeah? Thank you, Emerald, for that. Well, we're here. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We're all wearing the green, some of us. And if you don't have green, Emerald will take care of you. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day anyways, everybody, and especially welcome to our listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people and all the leprechauns out there in Jamestown. I understand they're going to turn the Chautauqua green today, and so it's going to be a fun day everywhere on March 17th. If you have a question or comment, if you want to tell Emerald what a great job she did on my beard, you can give us a call at 753-5225. You can email us, Twitter us, you can go to Facebook, you can go to YouTube and look us up. We're everywhere. Let's see what else. If you have an announcement or something you want to share, a lot of times people send it in, that's okay, but if you want to call and be brave and get your voice on the air and say hi to your kids, we'll do that too, whatever you like. Okay, well, the weather's still hanging around here. We declared it spring the other day. I smelled the first skunks of spring, and at St. Patrick's Day, usually there's a snowstorm, so I think hopefully that's behind us. Who knows? But the snow in my house is getting really old. I mean, it's almost as old as my dog now. It's incredible. I'm just waiting for it to go away. It just sits there. Oh, well. So a few things coming up today. In all fairness, I'm green because Will Russell and I, we're playing right down the road at Wegmans in Lakewood from around 11-ish to 2:30-ish. I say ish because we're going to, whenever we're ready, we're going to get started down there. So join us, come on in, say hi. I'd love to meet you. tell me what you think of the show. Only good things. And then, and then also at 4 o'clock, we're going to be over at the Lakewood Rod and Gun Club, and we're going to be playing Irish music all day today. And if I look a little tired, there's a good reason. My arm's probably ready to fall out. Anyways, I want to throw a shout out to our friends over at the Horseshoe Restaurant, or Horseshoe Inn over in Onoville. Had a great time there on Sunday for a big fundraiser for the St. Mary Cemetery project that they're doing. And always a great time. We had corned beef and cabbage, and I'll tell you, Jamie, when she puts out a dish out there, I mean, you get like a half a cabbage and half a cow on your plate. So we had a lot of fun out there. And let's see, my friends over at Rotary, who played over there on Tuesday, and then, of course, yesterday, or 2 days ago, Thursday, Bill Tornstrom and all the folks over at the Mayville Senior Citizens. We had a great luncheon with them and did a program of Irish music. So it's been a busy Irish week for all of us here. And anyways, so I got a few announcements I want to share with you, and then we're going to get right to our show. Very important topic. A lot of things we're going to talk about today that are very serious, and I want you to pay attention and think about, because this affects all of our lives here in Chautauqua County, well, just about everywhere these days. All right. So first off, let's go to Jamestown and let's talk about my friends over at Infinity. All right, they have a new student orientation. They have these from time to time. Music, art, dance, and theater students of all levels are welcome to enroll in private and group lessons. The Infinity Visual and Performing Arts Center will hold a new student orientation and intake session on Thursday, March 22nd. If you're interested, give them a call at 664-0991, 664-0991 to register for a session and reserve your spot today. Students may also register online at infinityperformingarts, all one word, .org. If you want to be contacted for an orientation slot. Orientation sessions only last 30 minutes, including a tour of the Infinity Center, opportunities to meet Infinity staff members, and schedule lessons. I've said this over and over again, and if I was a kid and I was growing up in this area, Infinity would be my second home, I swear. I mean, they've got everything there. It's just so cool, and being in the music like I am, I would have just, I don't know what I just would take every lesson I could and hang out with all the cool people there. All right, we all know that spring's coming up and Easter break and so forth. Well, they got a nice program here for kids when they're on break. The Infinity Center will host a Spring Into Music and Arts Day Camp from Tuesday, April 3 through April 6. So that's a Tuesday through Friday. Students will experience a variety of art, music, film, and theater activities, make cool art, script, and film a movie, join a band, cool, explore instruments, all in 4 fun-filled days. They run from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Students ages 6 through 12 are welcome. Okay, so you want to know more about that? 664-0991. Okay. Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation. We've been talking about this right along. This is next Saturday, March 24th. Delicious flapjack breakfast during the 6th annual Applebee's Flapjack Breakfast and Basket Raffle Fundraiser. That's a long title. The 2-hour event begins at 8 a.m. at the Applebee's on Vineyard Drive in Dunkirk. Tickets are $6 for flapjacks, bacon, juice, and coffee. This goes to support the mini grant program that they offer local teachers and school districts for projects in the classroom, connecting them with meaningful community service and so forth. So far, the foundation has awarded over $30,000 for 76 projects that brought together over 3,400 students and community members in 10 school districts. So this is a really good project, and it's all funded through this Flapjacks breakfast. In addition to the eating and enjoying yourselves, they have 25 gift baskets in their basket raffle, and tickets are 10 for 25 and so on. And if you're interested to know more, get tickets, 366-4892, 366-4892. Well, while I'm thinking about it, Randy and I, we went to the pancake breakfast that the Westfield Mayville Rotary Club sponsored over at Brockton last Saturday morning. It was the Pancakes Against Polio, and they raised a lot of money, and it was a great success. So for those of you that attended, thank you, and we had a great time. Justin, did you get your pancakes? 2 thumbs up. All right, we sent food back to the guys at the studio. If you were here, Emerald, longer, we would have got you breakfast, but off you went. No breakfast room? Next time, maybe. Okay, we talked about this last week when Jeff Smith was here, the executive director of St. Susan's Soup Kitchen, the 15th annual basket fair. And now this is 17th. Which is it? 15th. I got conflicting data here. St. Susan Center, March 17th. That is today, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. All right, drawing at 2 p.m. Tickets are 10 for 12 for the basket tickets, and you get 2 door prize tickets with that. $20 gets you 30 basket tickets and 4 door prize tickets. Grand prize tickets. Remember we talked about the 2 kayaks. There was the $500 cash, and I forgot what the other grand prize was. Well, anyways, a TV maybe? I think it was a TV, big screen TV. Okay, thank you. They're backing me up here. Those are $10 each, or 3 for $25. Great program, great cause. You heard the numbers of how many thousands of meals are provided every year through the region. So if you're interested, get down there from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The drawing starts at 2. They got food and beverages available. There's got music and so on. You still have an opportunity to give them a call if you need to know more information at 664-2253. Yeah, here's a new one that popped up. And this is tomorrow. The Fredonia Place annual Easter egg hunt. All right, it's going to be held tomorrow at 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. The fun event is free and open to the Fredonia Place residents, employees, and their families, as well as the general public. So if you're interested, come on out and join them over at Fredonia Place, one of our fine underwriters here at Chautauqua Sunrise. And if you want to know more information, give Mike Ferguson a call, who was just on the show not long ago, 672-0005. Okay, this just came through. My good friends over at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield, they are having another edition of their Unplugged in the Middle of the Field. I was the guest a couple months ago. Great fun, lots of entertainment. Kind of reminds me of the Prairie Home Companion. There we go. I get the words all mixed up. Or that show. Wait! Don't tell me that on the radio show they've kind of combined it all and made it into a lot of fun. Rick Mascaro and Company. It's going to be this coming Friday, March 23rd at 7 p.m. Tickets are only $5. It's a couple hours of fun. You're laughing the whole time, and they're just a riot. And that's right at the Jackie Phillips Theater in the Presbyterian Church up on the 2nd floor. All right, here's one that has come up here. Stacy Fox was on the show not so long ago from Compeer. Canvas for Compeer. A painting class. It's going to be held at the Gary Rodeo Dining Hall, and it's going to be at 2 p.m. $30, covers materials, goodie bag, coffee, hot cocoa, water, and snack bar. Let them know by March 27th if you're interested. Now, that can't be right. This has got to get fixed. It must be March 21. They got 7 on there. That'll be 3 days after the fact. By March 21, give them a call at 487-2956. Okay, our friends over at Rolling Hills Radio in Shawbucks are featuring Goodhue and Vandenberg and the Urban Pioneers. If you had never been to one of these shows, it's great fun. You get to see some entertainment from out of the area, and it's always nice to see somebody that's a little different than maybe you, or style of music you're not used to, whatever. It's at Shawbucks. It starts at 5:30, a happy hour. The show starts at 6:30, and it's a TV show as well now. They have cameras rolling, and they prompt the audience and all that sort of thing, and they have voiceovers like, "Hi, I'm Doc Hamels, and you should listen to WRFA 107.9, all that sort of thing. They read all these things, so it's really cool. Tickets are only $15 for an evening of entertainment. If you are interested for tickets, 484-1101, or go to the Chamber of Commerce website called chautauquachamber.org and get your tickets right there. It's real easy. I did. Okay, we're going to hold on that one because we're going to talk about that later. American Red Cross Giving Day, 4th annual Giving Day, will be held on Wednesday, March 28th. Giving Day takes place in March during Red Cross Month, a time to recognize heroes who help those in need in their community all year round. Giving Day is an opportunity for local communities to come together on one day to help the families who have been impacted by a home fire or disaster, or who urgently need Red Cross services to get back on their feet. For more information, give them a call at 1-800-RED-CROSS. That's a pretty interesting number. 1-800-RED-CROSS. Just dial those numbers. Okay, and then slide 17. Rusty Bova is going to be at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts on April 14th. We've been talking about this a little bit, and mark your calendar. Rusty's going to be on our show earlier that month to talk about what he's going to be doing. He's going to play a couple tunes for us, and he is an international jazz clarinetist and saxophonist, and this is going to be held at that same location at the First Presbyterian Church in Westfield at the William Bill Ross Recital Hall. Okay, so moving along, we're going to hold on that. We're not going to talk about that because my guest is going to talk about that, so there's no sense doubling up on that. So, going to take a little break. We're going to take a public service announcement, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. I'm Doc Hamels, and you are still watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm glad you tuned in, and I'm glad you are watching or listening. It doesn't matter. I'm glad you're here no matter what, because my guest has come back after a little break. We tried hard to get here. I think it was back in December, and things just got crazy with family life. Life gets in the way. So here we are in March, and I want to welcome back Melanie Witowski, who's the Executive Director of the Chautauqua Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council, otherwise known as CASIC.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And we've talked about some pretty heavy topics when you're here, and we're going to talk about some more heavy topics today. And you know, I was talking, I think it was was it last week? Last week, Jeff Smith, I said, you know, we talked about St. Susan's Kitchen. We had UCAN on here. We've talked with folks from Tapestry. We talked to people from various, the Veterans Services for the county, various organizations, Office for the Aging. We're serving a lot of people, doing a lot of things. And your agency is yet one more that's doing a lot of good work. And there's times, and take this for what it's worth, there's times I wish you guys weren't in business, you know? I really do. There was times when I used to be in education, I used to think, gosh, I wish there was times that I didn't have to do what I had to do because of social issues, what's going on in our lives and so forth. But nonetheless, we're glad you're here. And Melanie, how did you get involved with CASIC? I mean, this is not something you wake up one morning and say, I want to be the executive director of a abuse council, a substance abuse council.
Well, I started with CASIC back in 2005. My degree is actually in education, and so I originally wanted to educate children and youth, and they were looking for a prevention educator to go in the schools and provide drug and alcohol information as well as life skills. So I figured, why not? Let's give it a try. And you know, I've been here for a while now, and I think it becomes a passion. And I don't know about you, but I know it's personally touched me with individuals that I've known, whether it's a friend or a neighbor or you know, somebody that I might be close through a work atmosphere as well. So I've learned to understand what is going on in the community on a whole level approach, and I think it's so critical. And you know, our agency is so passionate about this, and we're on the other extreme. You know, we are not treatment, we're not recovery, but we're on prevention. So our goal is really to try to prevent individuals from needing treatment, from needing recovery. And so it's an extremely passionate topic for us at CASIC.
I think I mentioned that growing up, my mom was the office manager of the Buffalo Area Council on Alcoholism, which is, I think, the forerunner of, it was called the Chautauqua Alcohol Council or Council on Alcoholism. I'm guessing.
Yes.
I mean, because I think they changed their names over the years. But for 25 years, my brother and I would listen to, you know, the evils of drink and, you know, and prevention and services for folks that are alcoholics and, you know, and how society should be approaching it. And so this is, like you say, I get it. And in my own family, not necessarily my immediate family, but generational in the past, we've had some folks that really had a lot of issues with drinking.
Right.
And so I've reminded my kids, you know, the alcoholism can have a genetic thread through your family, and be careful.
Absolutely, and I think prevention has come a long way. You know, if you take a look about 6 years ago, CASIC as a whole was struggling just to get in the schools. But people are now understanding how critical these programs are, that they're not fluff. They are critical when we're talking about social, emotional, behavioral issues associated with our children. There's a direct correlation with academics, and if kids aren't getting that prevention education, they're not going to be able to learn effectively. Their academics are not going to succeed. I don't know if you're familiar with Brett, the superintendent at Jamestown School, but just recently on Thursday night there was a presentation in regards to how social determinants of health are, you know, flooding our community right now. And he made a perfect point that we can't educate these kids effectively if they're not getting the services they need, including, you know, CASIC services.
You know, I'm not sure what my role was. I think because I was a superintendent, I would attend some CASIC workshops with Pat, and I don't even remember the guy's name, but he would talk about drinking in the hypothalamus. You know who I'm talking about.
Yep. Paul Bogosian.
Bogosian, cool name. I remember that. It's a football player with that name, I think, too. Anyways, but he would talk about the fact, and let's see if it still holds, that drinking with young children used to be, you know, you're in high school, you go to somebody's house, and maybe you're 14, 15, and then he said the number is dropping. And I think it was down in like 9, 10-year-olds or something like that were experimenting. Is that where we're at?
As far as when we're taking a look at early onset of use, we're really finding that about 13 years old is when they're starting to, that's the average. That being said, unfortunately we do have individuals that are starting to use at 9 years old.
Right.
But the average, when you take a look at our PRIDE survey and the data, we did a compilation of students, about 2,000 students across the county, and approximately the average is about 12, 13 years old when they're starting to use.
That's hard to believe. My granddaughter's 12 years old, and I can't imagine her drinking.
Absolutely, and especially when we're talking about adolescent brain development, and Paul Bogosian was huge on that, the development of the brain, when it takes about 25 years for that brain to fully develop. Specifically, that prefrontal cortex that we're talking about, that involves critical thinking, judgment, you know, how to make effective decisions. And with this not being developed yet, and putting alcohol or any other substance in your body is going to cause, you know, havoc on that brain as far as development is concerned.
It really almost retards that organ, right?
Absolutely.
And we don't think much about it. Like in the holidays, the kids will come up and say, "Can I have a sip of this? Can you have a sip of that?" In our house, you don't do that. You know, we just don't do that. And when you realize that if the kids think, "Whoa, that's a fun drink," you know, they're drinking and they gave me a sip, it must be okay. To realize just what you said, unless you're older, like around 25, you said, parts of the brain, they're going to be affected differently when you're under 25 than when you're over 25, right?
Absolutely, and they're more vulnerable to a substance use or alcoholic disorder. You know, what part of the brain, one of the biggest pieces is the amygdala, and that's part of the changes that happen between 9 and 10 years old, where that amygdala is in charge of the emotional responses. So somebody has an alcoholic beverage, their immediate response might be, "Ooh, I like what this does for me." Well, what is somebody going to want to do if they know, okay, I like what this does to me. I'm going to drink more.
Yeah.
I'm going to use more.
More is better.
So what happens is they eventually use more and more, and that they develop that dependency over time, and unfortunately it becomes an addiction or a substance use issue. So they are more vulnerable, especially when we're talking about individuals that already have sort of that predisposition, have that biological effect, because we do know now that it is a genetic disorder. If somebody has a family member that is an alcoholic or dealing with a substance use disorder, they are more likely, unfortunately, not predestined, but more vulnerable to developing a disease as well.
Well, and I think, whether I talked about this last time you were on, but I'll talk about it again. Knowing that I had relatives, let's just say great uncles, who, at least one of them for sure, was knocked down drunk. I mean, he was a heavy, full-blown alcoholic. And I realized when I was in college, when I started experimenting with drinking, that I could drink a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, what's this all about?
Right.
I don't drink. I haven't had more than a sip of something at a wedding probably in over 40 years.
Right.
Maybe even close to 45 years. Because for me, I know, because I figured it out, luckily, that if I drink whatever that is in your brain, the amygdala you called it, says, wow, this is good. And I could sit there and drink a six-pack and never really think about it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm a witness to what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, young kids, they listen to us and they go, you know,
Right.
and they don't get it. They think we're just preaching, but it's really that serious.
Absolutely. And you know, for us at CASIC, one of the big things we are trying to work with the community on is children that are living in an alcoholic family or living in a chemically dependent home. And so if we can just touch a little bit on that, I don't know if you can show the first slide
Certainly.
that I brought today. But I think it's really critical for people to understand that when somebody is dealing with an addiction or a substance use disorder, it is not just that individual disease. It is a family disease. It's affecting every single person that individual is exposed to. So yes, it might affect one person, but it's spreading out through the entire family. The entire family suffers. I'm going to use a show that I watch, and I watch it because it really makes you more motivated to do what we do. Show that's called Shameless. And I know if you're not familiar with it, it's a good depiction of what children and youth, teenagers, adolescents are dealing with in the home when they have a family or loved one that's in a chemically dependent household. So if you bring it up, I can bring up the second slide that I kind of showcase the
there you
different
go.
roles that people will take on in a dysfunctional home. So when we're talking about the different roles that somebody might take, we have the hero child. This hero child is the one that has really taken on that role of parent. They are the individuals that are cooking the dinners every night. They're the ones that are handling signing of the paperwork that needs to be done by the parents.
Instead of being a kid.
Yes, instead of actually being a kid. They skip that process in their life.
They've been really robbed of their childhood.
Absolutely. And then we've got that scapegoat and the mascot. Those are the individuals that are a little bit the humorous and the rebel. We've got the mascot that more takes on the roles of being humorous and you know, the class clown. Those are the individuals that are always trying to make other people laugh and taking that distraction off of the alcoholic, off of that individual that is struggling with a substance use disorder.
Is it because they're embarrassed?
Embarrassment, but it's also because it's almost like a love for their family that they don't want so much of that attention to be on there.
Draw attention.
Yeah, attention, yeah.
Draw it away from. Okay.
So that's part of the reason. Same thing with a scapegoat. That's the one that's always in trouble. That's the one that is coming home suspended from school. And again, it's taking that attention away from that individual that is, unfortunately addicted. The one that is most critical, though, is that lost child. That's that child in the classroom that can't remember that person's name. They get lost in the crowd. This is that child that's really sad and is not really vocally speaking what's going on with them internally in the household. And those are the ones that we really need to hone in on and identify so that we can work with these children. And honestly, all of them need to be identified and how we can work with these kids. But if we can go to the next slide, I think it's really important for all community members or youth members that work with individuals in the household to focus on the 7 C's. So the 7 C's, if you are working with youth and you can identify some of those roles, the lost child, the mascot, the scapegoat, the hero child, these 7 C's are critical. We want these kids to know that they didn't cause their parents' addiction. Because of them, their behavior at school, because their academics are low, they weren't the ones that were responsible for their parents' substance use disorder, because so many people take blame for that. The second piece is they cannot control it. They can hide all the liquor they want, their drug of choice, but they cannot control it. They absolutely cannot control it. And they can't cure it. They can't cure their disease for them. what's important is themselves. They need to take care of themselves by figuring out different ways that they can cope with it. What coping mechanisms can they, is it a support group?
This is pretty heady stuff for a 9-year-old.
Absolutely, absolutely, but it's so important. And there are so many literacy pieces out there, little books that we can work with those kids if they are sent to CASIC. But we want to work with these kids. We want to build up their life skills, specifically with the coping mechanisms, making better choices for themselves and celebrating themselves, because so much the focus has been on their parents. But the focus really needs to be on that individual.
Okay, there was, what, 3 more C's there?
Yes, there was 3 more C's. So the biggest thing on there is the coping mechanisms, but also taking care of themselves. They're always invested in taking care of their family member, but they need to take care of themselves by communicating their feelings to whatever social support they can find, whether it's a counselor at school, whether it's coming to CASIC. We have been working more and more with individuals that are in a chemically dependent home and making healthier choices.
Before we take that slide down, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of people I know. Take away addiction, put in cancer, put in leukemia, put in anything that disrupts our lives that we didn't cause. That kind of fits, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That's powerful. And then it makes me think about the serenity prayer that, that they use, well, a lot of people use, but AA uses. It's out of their control, and but yet this sounds like you're giving them opportunity to build themselves up, to understand the situation, and to communicating the feelings. That's huge, I would think.
It is huge, especially because these children have that don't talk, don't tell. That's kind of what,
the family secret.
Yeah, the family secret. We can't talk
things.
about this thing. I can't tell anybody about it. And the thing is, every single classroom, there are children dealing with this. And it might not be alcohol, it might not be substances, it might be, domestic violence, it might be some other issues in the home, but absolutely these 7 C's can be effective with other different disorders or things that might be going on in the household.
Can we go back to the lost child? Because I'm sitting
Absolutely.
here and I'm going back in my memory bank and I'm looking at children's faces in classrooms and down the hallways and can you tell me let's extrapolate the life of a lost child. Let's say this child is kindergarten, and usually they're the ones that are just real quiet and they don't do anything. But what happens to them over time?
So over time...
I worry about this lost child.
So over time, what we find with these individuals is they don't have the social skills. They don't have the communication skills. They don't know how to communicate their feelings. They don't even know how to interact with other individuals. And they just keep everything inside. And so we talk about stress building up. When we talk about suicide, because suicide prevention is really critical, and CASIC is working with the Suicide Coalition and Chautauqua Tapestry on training individuals throughout the community with suicide and how to talk to individuals with that. But this is mental health that continue to build with that individual that doesn't have that capability of exposing and communicating their feelings, but also they try to find that quick, easy fix. What's going to help me increase my communication skills? What's going to help me feel confident and self-esteem? Because that person's self-esteem is very low. So what's their little easy button or quick tool? Let's take a substance. Let's take alcohol.
Escaping?
Yes, escape from whatever struggle that I may be dealing with. We sometimes call it liquid courage. So they don't have that self-confidence when they're in a social group, so they're going to take a drink. And we find that generational addiction happening because, well, I don't know how to handle my feelings. I don't know how to interact with individuals, so I'm going to give me something that's going to increase my self-esteem, help me cope with what I'm dealing with. Like you said, escape. I'm going to mask how I'm really feeling. I'm not going to share that with anybody because of that embarrassment. There's so many different pieces to that individual.
So I'm thinking now, if this child goes through high school, if they finish, their attendance is probably poor, even their health could be poor. And what becomes of them? They maybe maybe life is not so good for them. You know,
Right.
maybe they, like you said, they're starting to get into substance abuse. Perhaps doesn't mean they all do, but maybe they have poor marriages, or their work ethic is not great, so they don't work regularly. I'm guessing. Am I?
Absolutely. I mean, you're taking a look again, we're talking about social determinants of health, and we're talking about social issues, we're talking about emotional issues, we're talking about behavioral issues, you know, mental health concerns. I mean, all of those pieces are wrapped under these children, specifically the lost child in itself. But when you're talking about individuals that start using at a young age, those are those individuals that we're talking about. And so that's why it's so critical for us to identify who those are and then provide some strategies to help these children cope with what they're dealing with. So if I could, I'd like to kind of give some strategies that are out there for our community, because I think it takes a community, every school district, every classroom. It's important to identify these kids.
Okay.
And then let's give them those strategies. So I do have another slide, if we can share some different strategies that we can all incorporate. So children living in a chemically dependent home, whether it's alcohol or in other substances, there's a few services that we have as well as other community agencies. So Awareness Theater. Awareness Theater is a group that works on different social issues that teenagers are struggling with today, whether it's bullying, whether it's dysfunction in a home, whether it's how do I handle my stress, how do I be assertive and deal with somebody that's trying to peer pressure me to use. And what they do is take that content and incorporate it into a skit, as well as some tools on how to cope with that. So we have Awareness Theater right now in one location in Jamestown at the Reg Linné.
Oh, wow.
Reg Linné, it's on Mondays from 4 to 6 o'clock.
Right on the stage then?
Right on stage, yes. And so some of them are kids that have a family member that might be struggling it, or it might be a person that is just an advocate for this topic and for this struggle that we're dealing with in our community. I'm happy to say that we're looking to incorporate this now in Dunkirk as well. So we just had a meeting with Dunkirk High School and the middle school principal, Steve O'Brien and Rebecca Fairwell, and we are now going to be providing on Tuesday nights from 6 to 8 o'clock at the Dunkirk High School in a classroom, to be determined. But we have 12 participants already interested in starting up this group, so we're hoping to do that relatively soon.
So what would be the age group that you would use for?
12 on up. So we really want individuals that are in middle school up to high school. And again, what our goal is for these kids to come in and have a voice, say, okay, this is what we're struggling in school. You know, I have a parent that's, you know, using substances. I have a friend that's being bullied. Coming in, taking that topic, having a CASIC prevention educator go in and work with these individuals, give them some tools and techniques, and then they apply that to a skit and then share that with a school or a group within the community.
Question just arose from my audience here. At what point do the children now discuss their issues at home, or is it in a protected, secure environment? Do they do that at Awareness Theater? Is it with a counselor at school?
Okay.
How does that work?
So very good question. So we have 2 different Awareness Theater directors in Jamestown, and then we have another Awareness Theater director in Dunkirk that will be starting soon. If we find that there is a referral, CASIC, our prevention educators can either come right in to the Awareness Theater location and pull them out and just have a conversation with them, or they can also be referred right over to our facilities. So we have 2 locations right here, right in Dunkirk at 51 East 3rd Street, which is where the old PROS Resource Center program was held. And then we also have our other location in Jamestown, 501 West 3rd Street, which is right down the street from the Jamestown Ice Arena. So if somebody wants to come, it's no charge. They want to talk to somebody about the disease of addiction. I think that's first and foremost. People need to understand that it is a disease of the brain, and I think that helps youth understand that, okay, it's not just a moral disorder, it's an actual disease, and I think that helps them cope a little bit more with it, rather than saying it's a moral issue, because it's not. We know it's a disease of the brain.
Where's confidentiality come in all this?
Confidentiality is extremely important with CASIC, so any information that's shared with us, it stays with us. We it cannot be shared with anybody outside the community unless that child is okay with us disclosing information.
Okay, I'm going to throw the hard one at you.
Sure.
What about mandated reporting?
Okay, so if we have the mandating reporting, depends on the situation. We have also, all of our people are mandated reporters, so
Right.
depending on the content that's shared. Majority of the time, we are not hearing the story of abuse. It's more the emotional,
Okay.
that's invested with that individual. But I can tell you this right now, if we have individuals that are coming in that are trauma, they're dealing with trauma, we can refer out. So CAP in Jamestown and in Dunkirk have some specific programming dealing with child advocacy program.
Okay.
So they have
That was Jan McDermott's group.
right. They have, actually, it's somebody different now.
Right.
It's Beth Oakes.
Okay. Oh,
Is the
that's
new
right. That was
executive
relatively
director.
recent, that
Yeah.
appointment. Yes.
They have a program dealing with trauma. But that being said, CASIC is not the one to provide clinical services. And that's why I said there's multiple strategies that was one of the strategies on that chart that was up there, is they might need one-on-one counseling. They might need to have that more conversation with somebody that's a clinician. But when we're talking about prevention education, that's what we work with our children at CASIC. So building those life skills. Remember I talked about the reasons why somebody might start using is because of self-esteem issues. It might be because of their escaping mechanisms. So we want to talk to them about their coping skills. We want to talk about their decision-making skills. We want to talk about the disease of addiction and how they are more vulnerable to addiction, and so making better choices for themselves so they don't fall into that same spot that their families are in. Hopefully they can make those better choices based on working with our prevention educator.
Right now, I feel like we're standing under a waterfall, not here, but in our communities, with things like alcoholism, with the opioid situation. I mean, it's just raining down on our communities. How do you know that you're getting anywhere? I mean, only because families that are very transient sometimes. We got people that they're just covering up, the kids don't report. I mean, all the things you talked about, but how do you know if you're making any ground?
Right. And that's a very good question. Prevention is very difficult to measure because we don't take an individual in our programs and see what's happened to them when they're 30 years old. But we do test our outcomes. We do check our pre and post surveys. We are in collaboration with many different sectors out there to help us give some data to see how we've improved over the years. So I'll tell you right now, Pride survey, I know it sounds dismal with everything that's going on in our community, but if you take a look at our Pride survey that was taken back in 2014, and then you take a look at what was taken in 2016, use has actually gone down amongst youth. So as far as alcohol, actually across the board, every single substance has actually gone down. The only thing that has gone up is energy drinks. So that was the one thing that we saw. Our energy drinks has gone up. So we can measure that. And we can measure our qualitative data, not just quantitative data. So you take a look at how much is going on in our community, both with ICE 8 and the Michigan model and what schools are implementing, as well as CASIC with the supplemental activities. Kids are getting flooded with services, which is important, which is needed, but it's going to take a long time. I'm going to be honest, it's going to take a long time because this has been a long time in the making. When you look at history and Purdue Pharmaceuticals, which this is kind of where the opioid epidemic all started, with their false advertising basically saying that oxycodone was not addictive substance. It all started back in 1999, I believe it was. That was 18, 19 years ago, so it's not going to be fixed overnight. It really isn't, but it's going to take all of us to have a piece in it. It's going to take prevention. It's going to take treatment, recovery. It's going to take law enforcement. It's going to take environmental strategies, which, if I can talk a little bit about, I think, when we talk about the community as a whole, what can somebody do to help our community with where we're standing today? We have different environmental strategies, and one of the things we need to limit is our accessibility and availability of our prescription drugs in our household, which is something our Hope Chautauqua Coalition and Kelly Potter, who is our coalition coordinator, has worked diligently with over the last few months, and Julie Franco that worked as our coalition coordinator about 3 years in a row with this. But one thing we're trying to do is get rid of that medication. So how can we do that? Is utilization of our Dropbox locations. And I think I have a slide on there which identifies some of our Dropbox locations. We have 5 currently in Chautauqua County. A few years ago we had 0, so we're making headway. But actually through another initiative we were able to get another lockbox location, and that might be a little small for people to see, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, why don't we read through it?
Yeah, we have one at the Jamestown Police Department. I know they're struggling right now with some flooding issues, but there is one there. There's one at the Sheriff's Office. There is one at Westfield Police Department. There's one at Silver Creek in the municipality building, in the town village actually. And we have one in Fredonia Police Department, and we're also looking to have one in the Lakewood bus stop. So that one will coming up.
So this is any prescription?
Any even animal medication, which unfortunately we have people that are abusing that as well. The only thing it limits is liquids. There's no liquids that can be included.
So give us an example of liquids.
So if you have a antibiotic that's in a liquid form in a bottle.
What about like insulin?
No, any pill form is what they will accept.
Pills only.
And no needles.
Okay.
So no needles can be taken to those Dropbox locations. But any veterinarian type of medications for your animals can be included in that. So that's just one piece of it. So there's something else that we are working with, because we have individuals that don't want to go to a Dropbox location, or they can't go to the Dropbox location. So we now have deactivation bags. A deactivation bag, and I should have brought one to show everybody. But deactivation bags are, you open it up, you put your medication in there, add water, shake it, and it turns to charcoal. It's environmentally safe for our septic.
I've never heard of this before.
Yeah, so we are, Kelly Potter is working diligently with hospice and palliative care. There's a pilot program right now where any individual that passes away, they're actually going to these facilities, giving family members these deactivation bags. Let's get rid of this medication so that it doesn't get into the wrong hands of anybody in our community, whether it's family, friends, or neighborhood neighbors that might have access to that medication. People can get a deactivation bag right at our facilities in Jamestown as well as Dunkirk, but we're working with Chautauqua Center as well to try to get this pilot program up and running, and we're hoping more individuals.
Okay, we have a phone call. You ready?
Okay, sure.
All right, good morning, caller.
Well, good morning, Jack. Top of the morning to you. I like your beard.
Thank you.
How long did
Things
it
I
take
do
you
for
to grow
TV.
that?
What's that?
How long did it take you to grow that?
Is how long is it going to go back to normal? I read on the container that one wash should do it. So we'll see what I look like next week. Unless Emerald has other ideas. Maybe we'll come in red or something.
Well, good morning to you, and good morning, Melanie. And
Good morning.
I'm really enjoying your presentation.
Oh, thank
I
you.
would like to mention that the Awareness Theater is a really, everybody should go to that. That used to be quite popular in the 90s.
Right, I remember.
And they would, and I saw it in the Dunkirk, Fredonia area, is where I first saw it. And the actors were children of alcoholic families then. They all were.
Yep.
That's what we were told anyway.
Pretty
Yeah.
spectacular when you think about it.
Right.
To
Yes.
think that they could take that energy and turn it out, and express themselves. That's, wow.
And one of the things that they pointed out is the position of birth when a child is born. And of course, this happens in all kinds of families. I read the birth order book, which is great. But whether they're the oldest, or the middle, or the youngest, that has something to do with, isn't it true, with the way they react to situations in the alcoholic home life?
Sure.
Yep, absolutely. When we're talking about, I think we briefly touched on genetic, how they're more vulnerable, unfortunately, because of the disease of addiction in their home. They are more vulnerable, but it doesn't mean they're predestined. And so we really like to let people know that it's biological as well as, those decisions that they make. So somebody that is using on a regular basis, that has addiction in their family, but then you have somebody else that doesn't have addiction in their family that makes the same choices, that person that has the disease in their family is more likely to have an issue down the road.
I would think that the lost child is the second middle child,
Yeah.
perhaps in a family,
Yep, and sometimes it's the
or the fourth.
yeah, usually the last or the
Either
middle.
middle
Yep.
or the last.
Right.
I remember in school
Yep.
that we used to watch for those guys and gals.
Yep, absolutely. But I mean, I appreciate your comment about Awareness Theater. I think what's nice about it is it almost feels like a support group, but also it gives them more fuel to be an advocate for youth and an advocate for these children that are struggling with it, and helping other people identify in the audience, hey, that's my family. You know, when they see a skit that has all those different dysfunctional pieces and those roles that these kids take on, people start to identify with that and say, wow, that's my family, and maybe I can, you know, latch on to this group. Even if they don't like theater, they don't have to act, they can be behind the scenes and helping create that skit, or help, like Emerald, you know, videotaping if they want to be a part of that component as well.
Yeah, it is. It was very informative. In fact, it's startling. It reveals so much. Everybody should go to it
Absolutely.
at
And
least once.
thank you so much. And we're trying right now to get some funding to make sure this continues, and we're pretty promising. We feel pretty hopeful that this will continue and happen.
Linda, you work with senior citizens, and that is, where do you see addiction in later years? Is this still an issue?
Well, what they say, you know, what I have read and what I have seen on civil service tests also, is that the elderly very often could be prone to alcohol abuse and addictions, and of course now we have the opioid crisis, which starts with prescription drugs. But and a lot of it has to do with the fact that sometimes they're not getting out, they're not being with people, depression sets in.
Right, they're getting locked in there. Yeah, their circle of their sphere of life is shrinking, and they're Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about your Office for the Aging? Are you intersecting with CASIC?
You know, I haven't so much of recent years, but when I worked for Chautauqua Opportunities, and we were the subcontractors for the employment program for seniors, which was like a training component, we were very active with the Council on Alcoholism, and we would get guest speakers to come in to our seminars. We would have what we call empowerment seminars to prepare people for jobs, and also to look at all the aspects of stress and all the difficulties people are facing looking for a job or being out of work. And we would try to get somebody at least for one day in a session to come and talk. And it was very, very helpful.
Okay.
Well,
Very
Linda,
enlightening.
if I can just say something, this has kind of come across our mind. We were trying to reach out to other organizations to implement this deactivation bag. So I'm not sure if you've heard much about that, but I know Kelly Potter and I had talked about reaching out to the Office of Aging to possibly help us with promoting the deactivation bag. So specifically, if there's an elderly individual that has medication in there that they no longer are using, giving them a deactivation bag to get, or a family member to get rid of that medication, so that younger kids aren't getting access to it and having availability. That is something that we would love to connect with you on.
Oh, well, that's a great feature. I will definitely bring it up to Mary Ann, yeah.
My work is done here once again, Linda.
Oh, yeah.
Every time Linda calls, somehow I find a reason for my guest to talk to her about
Well,
something.
you're my job developer.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So, anyways, all right. So, anything quick? We got to move ahead here. Anything else going on?
Well, just that we have our senior employment program, our computer training at the Brockton and Hira Library, and at the Westfield Patterson Library. The training is free, and we have jobs available, and we refer people to different situations. And there are other services with the Chautauqua County Office for the Aging. Our telephone number
Right there.
is on the screen is 753-4471.
Okay. And are you doing anything special for St. Patrick's Day?
Well, I'm going to a play reading tonight. We're going to celebrate St. Patrick's.
And if you have to buy groceries, go to Wegmans in Lakewood. I'm playing there this morning. All right.
Well, have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day
Thank you.
weekend.
And we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
Bye-bye.
So there it is. This is generational. This is lifelong issues. This isn't something that just affects little kids. It goes all the way through life.
Absolutely.
And robs people of their lives, their resources, their families, their everythings.
Absolutely. And I think not only that, but it's affecting our entire community. Whether you personally know somebody that is struggling with this disease, it's affecting your community. When you talk about neighborhoods that are, having drug houses within their neighborhood, when you're talking about neighborhoods that unfortunately have to worry about their house being burglarized because somebody is, one, looking for medication in your household, or two, because they're taking whatever electronics might be there, it's affecting every single person in some capacity. If I can share, next month is Take Back Day for April 28th, and I think I have a slide up there as well with the different locations. Again, if we all have a piece of this, if we can just make sure that you go through your medication, your medicine cabinet, if you have a past surgery that you had or an ailment where you had medication or your family members had medication, please go through that. Get rid of it. Take it to these different locations. There's 3 locations. We have actually 4 locations. My apologies. My bad. We have Chautauqua. My bad. We've got the Chautauqua Mall right at the J.C. Penney's parking lot where they will be collecting medication. Southside Pharmacy is also collecting medication. Westfield Family Physicians, as well as our All-Star Ambulance, which is over at 738 Monroe Street in Dunkirk. So all ends of the county are providing this Saturday, April 28th from 10 to 2 o'clock.
And this is pills only, no liquids.
This is pills
or
only,
needles.
no liquids and no needles. And there's no questions asked.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay. Should people take their labels off the bottles?
No, they don't need to
They don't
take any
care?
of their labels. No, they can just bring a whole bag full of medication, whatever you have. Again, it can be medicine that you've given for your pets at home as
Right.
well. So get rid of it because it's a safety concern too. You do not want that in your home
Okay.
if you're not using it.
Melanie, we're down to a couple of minutes left.
Okay.
We haven't shared a phone number if people need to call you.
Okay.
So let's give them that.
Sure. Our Dunkirk office is 366-4623, and then our Jamestown office is 664-3608. You can also go to our website, which talks a little bit about our poster contest, which I know the posters were due yesterday for our youth in 3rd through 12th grade, but please drop them by our office. We will still accept them Monday if you have them. This year's theme was Be a Thinker, Not a Drinker.
That's true.
Our website is www.casacweb.org. So check that out. We have our newsletters up there, more information on our poster contest, and a flyer on how to submit your poster.
Okay, and you have a couple of workshops coming up that we're going to talk about real quick.
We do. We have a substance use and breastfeeding training that's happening with a collaboration between Baby Cafe as well as UPMC Chautauqua WCA. That's going to be at the WCA Auditorium Wednesday, March 28th from 10 to 1 o'clock. And then we also have free parenting classes right now at the Mental Health Association. And those are going to be 2-hour sessions starting May 2nd. They will be weekly, and that's provided by a Cummins grant that we received. So it's parenting for individuals that have children in the ages of birth to 5 years old.
Okay, we're down to like last 15 seconds here. Melanie Witowski, Executive Director of CASIC, is my guest today. Parting words, if somebody has an issue, what should they do?
Give us a call. There's help available, both locations.
And don't be shy about it. Do something about it now.
Absolutely.
All right. Folks, that's a wrap. I hope you found something of interest and importance in the show today. I have. And give these folks a call. Don't be shy. St. Patrick's Day, drink carefully. Have a designated driver. Watch for kids and make sure we're good examples for them. We'll see you all here right on Access 5 next Saturday at 9 a.m. I'm Doc Campbell signing off with Chautauqua Sunrise. Have a great day and have a great weekend. See you at Wegmans or the Ryan Gun Club. Bye now.